Playinground by Susan Hutchins. Chapter 6. Holding tightly to Ben's hand, Linda strides along the pavement. "I don't want to go home," whines Ben. "You're going too fast." For a few minutes, Linda slows her pace, then worried about the time, she puts on another spurt. They're only a few hundreds from Royal Crescent when Linda spots Brian walking on the opposite side of the road. Anxious that he's out looking for her and what that will imply, she stands still and waves to attract his attention. She thinks he hasn't seen her and then suddenly turns and looks at her. Even with the passing traffic zooming between them, she can read his anger. "Wait," she tells Ben. Then, dodging the traffic, she rushes across the road. Before she reaches him, before she can get her breath back, Brian shouts, "Where the hell have you been?" "I took Ben and Dylan to the park." "Do you know what time it is?" "I'm sorry, I didn't realise it was so late. I had to take Dylan home, then Dylan wanted to show Ben his bike and I don't want to listen to your fucking excuses. I've done 2 days solid hard graft. That cab was like a bloody oven. The least you can do is put a meal on the table." "I'm sorry. We're here now. I'm going to make a corned beef hash. It won't take long and I don't want bloody hash. I'll go where I can get something decent to eat. Brian, She watches him march away, then looks across the road to where Ben is standing. His eyes are focused on her. His feet are at the very edge of the pavement, inches away from the traffic. She indicates him to move back from the road, then seeing a space between 2 cars, she rushes over to him. Ben's face, his whole demeanour has changed. When she told him it was time to leave Dylan and go home, the boy in the park, the boy who learnt to ride a bike that afternoon, shrank, closed in on himself. She crouches down beside him, takes his hand in hers. "Dad has let me off cooking today," she says. "He's going somewhere else to eat. We've a few hours to ourselves. Just you and me." Brian's work clothes, a pair of grubby jeans and a denim shirt, had been left where they fell on the bedroom floor. She picks them up and drops them into the dirty linen basket. The music from Ben's favourite television series, Lost in Space, is coming from the sitting room. She leaves the bedroom and opens the door. Ben's eyes are glued to the screen. "As soon as it's finished, turn it off," she says. She goes to the kitchen, takes the open tin of corned beef from the cupboard, lifts the lid and looks inside. The corned beef is almost melted. Hoping it might last another day, she tips the corned beef from out of the tin onto a ceramic pudding bowl, covers the bowl with a saucer and puts it into a saucepan of cold water. From another saucepan of water, she takes an open bottle of milk. There is just enough to pour Ben a drink. She sniffs the milk and empties it into a beaker. The milkman will deliver another pint in the morning. The sound from the television stops. Ben walks into the kitchen and she gives him the beaker. While he's drinking, she picks up a flannel from the dish on the draining board and rubs it with soap. Ben puts the beaker onto the table, looks at Linda waiting for the flannel in her hand and goes over to her. He grimaces as she wipes his face. "That's better," she says. She looks at his hand, wets the flannel again and wipes them, saying, "After you cleaned your teeth, put your pyjamas on and bring me where the wild things are." Linda has lost count of the times she has read Maurice Sedkin's story about a naughty boy called Max who leaves his home and sails far away to an island inhabited by wild, scary creatures. Ben has never grown tired of listening to the story. Linda has never grown tired of holding Ben in her arms while he looks at the pictures. The first time she read it to him, Ben had cried. He wanted to know why Max couldn't stay on the island with the wild things. She told him it was because his mummy would miss Max even more than the wild things would. Linda is glad that Ben is what Brian calls a softie. She doesn't want him to be the model of his father. When Linda reaches the end of the story, she puts the book aside. Ben is sat on her lap. She looks down at him. His head is rested against her shoulder. His eyes are closed. She cradles him in her arms, carries him to his bed, puts the sheet over him and gives him one last kiss before quietly closing the door behind her. Without Ben to distract her, Linda's anxiety grows. She knows from experience that when Brian is angry with her, it is not easily forgotten. He will be looking for any excuse to have a row. If she knew what time he will walk through the door, she would be able to plan her evening. She really should catch up with the writing group homework. But she has to be careful. She'll do whatever she can not to irritate him. In her dressing table drawer is a birthday present from her mother. A box of rose-scented bath cubes, a small luxury that she can only enjoy when she is alone. When Brian is at home, the last thing she wants is perfume on her skin. Linda turns on the television. David Nixon is performing a magic trick with a handkerchief and someone's wristwatch. Nixon's voice, the audience laughter jars, makes her go to the screen and switch it off. She takes a library book from the shelf and looks at the title, The Female Eunuch. She opens the book, reads a few paragraphs, then flips through the pages. The words are meaningless. She snaps the book shut, wonders what sort of world Germaine is living in. Doesn't she know a married woman's rights disappear as soon as the ring has been put on her finger? She puts the book back onto the shelf and looks at the clock. It's not yet 9. Far too early to go to bed, but at least she'll be out of the way when Brian comes in. The bedroom window is open, but the heat from the day is still trapped inside the small room. She removes her clothes and drapes them over the dressing table chair. If Brian wasn't sharing her bed tonight, she would have slept naked. She takes a brushed nylon night dress from under her pillow, pulls it over her head, pushes each pearl button through its buttonhole until it reaches her neck. It is still light when she moves the sheet and gets into bed. She lies on her back and stares at the ceiling, waiting for the room to darken. She tries to cast her mind back to the day's events, the escapade of the carpet, the picnic in the park, but a picture of Andrew standing at the window keeps coming to her. The desire to join him, to stand next to him, had been overwhelming, and she begins to wonder if his quiet ways, his startling blue eyes, had reminded her of her father. She admits she finds Andrew attractive, realises such thoughts should be dismissed, but unwilling to let them go and taking them with her, she closes her eyes and turns on her side. A fierce glare of light penetrates Linda's eyes, the pull of the sheet, and she's awake. Brian is in the room. He throws the sheet aside and leans towards her. She brings her knees to her chest, then aiming for Brian's stomach, she straightens them. He falls against the wall. You bitch. He grabs her ankles, pulls them apart. His weight keeps her pinned to the bed. He pushes himself into her and she gives a cry of pain. She thinks about Ben's asleep in the room next to them, stares up at the ceiling as she waits for him to finish.